Hi, welcome to this edition of Conversation with Claris. Today we're going to discuss the distribution phase of financial planning or retirement planning. Today we have with us Scott Iverson, Senior Vice President and Wealth Advisor with Claris. Scott, I think most of the time when we're doing retirement planning for our clients, I think we focus a lot of times, and the clients are really focused a lot of times, on the accumulation state. They're trying to get enough money to maintain a lifestyle through retirement, and that's important, and it's tough, and it's something that you need to plan for. I think what we fail sometimes, clients especially, is there is a whole process that needs to be looked at, talked about when you're talking about the distribution stage. So take us through that a little bit, or at least hit some points on the distributions phase of financial planning that we think is important.
Sure. You're 100% right. People love to focus on investments. It's fun. Well, for some people, it's fun to talk about. Right. It's one of those kind of sexy things where you talk about the stock that's done great. I put X amount of money in and made a bunch of money, and it's things that people like to talk about. As we know from our work, that also is one of those things that, frankly, we have very little control over. How those investments are going to perform. If we knew what the markets would do, well, we probably wouldn't work very much, and we may not be doing this video right now. There are a lot of things that we can't control. However, and a lot of that comes about in the distribution phase. Not growing those assets, but figuring out the best way to take those assets in a tax efficient manner, and also to achieve goals that someone has, those lifelong goals. Because if money is anything, isn't it a tool to do those things of which we've always dreamed? Right. So when I think about the distribution phase, and maybe the legacy phase as well, it's important to note that this is something we should start planning for well ahead of the distribution phase time. Right. If we start planning 2 weeks before someone retires, odds are we have missed the boat on a lot of things that we could have done. Right. So what are some of those things that we could do? I like to think about it in two main headings. The first would be life and health. As both you and I have learned over the course of our careers, if you don't have health, it doesn't matter much how much money you have. Yeah. It can help. Obviously, money always helps, but without health, that distribution phase, that retirement, is going to be problematic. Right. So life and health would be the first that I would encourage people to think about. The second would be the part that we really dig into, and that would be the investment, estate, and tax aspect of things. So life and health, I'm going to touch on a couple of things there. Neither you nor I are registered life coaches or health coaches. Probably a good thing.
Right, yeah, probably right.
So I would encourage clients to develop a health wellness plan to figure out how they're going to stay healthy. We spend so much time working that sometimes that health takes a backseat. And again, I know we've learned through our careers, and maybe through aging ourselves, as we get older, it can be harder to stay healthier. So how do we do those things to keep ourselves feeling good? I would develop that plan and share it with someone. The sharing keeps someone on track. The second part, begin kind of a phased career/retirement transition. A lot of times we've seen people stop cold, and that can be problematic. So kind of a phase into it can be a real good idea, and then work on that legacy plan. So what is it that you want to happen after you're gone? That's the life and health part. The second part is the investment, estate, and tax part of things. And I'm going to just bounce around here and touch on a few things that I think are really important for people to think about. The first is to develop a Social Security income strategy. Right? Don't wait until the last second and say, oh, I'm 65, I'll take it. Well, maybe, but more than likely not. That's probably not the best thing to do. Think about inherited IRAs. So we're not just talking about about the distribution of your money, although that's part of it, but also thinking about your heirs. And IRA rules have changed. I don't have enough time to go into it here, but it's something we have to think about a little bit more than we did before, when people could stretch it out over the course of their lifetimes. It may make a lot of sense to realize income before the age of 72, meaning accelerate income into earlier years rather than keep deferring it, which is something we've kind of always been told to do. So this is where we talk about Roth conversions, things like that, those buzzwords that people have heard. Another thing to think about at that time is donating your required distributions out of your IRAs to charity. That could be the most efficient way to achieve multiple goals. From an estate and wealth transfer standpoint, I would say individuals need to make sure they work with an attorney to develop that wealth protection and estate plans, ensure that all assets are titled properly. And then finally, this is something that you used to hear a lot about. You don't hear much about it anymore, but still makes a pretty big difference and might make a bigger one down the road. And that is, if you're married, try to equalize ownership of assets, and even a step beyond that, of equities. And I can't get into exactly why because we only have so much time, but there are a lot of little tricks in here that can really help over the long term. So those were the main things I would touch on.
Right. I think, Scott, thanks. I think that the big summary or takeaway here, the distribution phase has a lot of planning that needs to be done. It is not wait till you get there and then all of a sudden, hey, what am I supposed to do? I mean, there's a lot that needs to go into it, a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, and we would both say just as much as there is on the accumulation side.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that with us. Thanks for being with us. Until next time.
Thank you.